Welcome to Warrant and Finance meeting for August 22nd, 2022. The first thing we do is salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. Some of us, most of us, continuation from last year, except for Charlie. So I would like to start with you, Phil. Go around the table and introduce yourself and make Charlie feel comfortable.
He looks pretty comfortable. He's got his overalls on and all that. Phil Caruso, I live over on Buzzell Road side, near Ray here, my neighbor, and Janice.
Leslie,
I'm sorry. Did a line swap there. And I just started this in February as an alternate, and it was very busy at the time because all the budgets were coming together, so it was quite a good learning experience, and everybody was very helpful and nice, of course. So come back again.
Good afternoon, welcome. My name is Ray Lopez, I live on Buzzell Road also. Welcome to the committee.
I am Leslie. I live over on Langley Shores, and this is my second year on the committee, and it was quite an eye-opener the first year, so welcome.
As you know, Charlie, my name's Dennis. I do not live on the Buzzell Road. And I live on the infamous Fireground Road. And I am very happy that you decided to help us.
Well, it's early.
Joyce Bakshi. Also, I live on the other side of town, West Shore Drive, or should I call it the Culvert Road? And I've been on this 2 years, and I think it's one of the most worthwhile committees you can be on, and I'm glad to have you with us.
Thanks.
Hello, I'm Margarita, and I'm an alternate, and I joined the Warrant and Finance Committee in, I think it was February of this year as well. I don't live on Buzzell Road, I live on West Shore Drive.
I'm Joe Ruma, I live on San Page Road, and I've been on the committee this is my second year. So it's a learning process too.
Oh, I imagine. You want me to introduce myself? I'm Charlie. I live on Acton Ridge Road. And for the most part, I don't get off the homestead much, so many of these roads, I've heard of them, but I don't know where they are. So I have to spend some time with a map. I'm interested in finding out what goes on in the committee, so.
Why are you familiar? Where do we know your face from?
Where do you know my face?
I know I've talked to you a few times.
Yeah.
But I can't ever remember where it's from.
Food pantry.
There you go. Yes. I knew you looked very familiar. Yes.
Because they took down my picture in the post office, so, you know.
Do you own the storage building up there?
I do.
Yeah, that's.
Well, it used to be a storage building. I guess it still is, but it's just storing my stuff now.
That's interesting. Well, you're an interesting person, I can tell by the stuff you get outside.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Thank you, Charlie, for your willingness to serve. The next thing on
Gonna move somebody
agenda
up.
is election of officers.
No, we gotta
No.
move somebody up.
No,
We have,
no, we don't move anybody up.
Phil, are you still an alternate?
No,
No.
No, Phil is up.
Not since last
Everybody moved
July.
up.
since like April or something?
Since April?
Actually, yeah.
Margarita's
And I asked when I
alternate. and Charles.
re-upped, as it were, with Jennifer, if I was gonna be
Because I was
off.
going through the warrants to figure
Yeah.
out what happened.
Yeah, it got a little confusing for a while there.
Yeah, a little, oh my.
Yeah. So,
So Charlie will be the alternate.
Charlie's an alternate, and Margarita's an alternate.
He took over for Tucker, right? Charlie?
Yeah, I believe so.
Because Tucker stepped down, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was after we were here, so.
right. Which, you know what an alternate means?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But-
voting and everything.
Phil came in for Tucker, filled in Tucker's position.
No, Tucker was still here
No, Tucker was still
Right,
here.
but when he stepped out, you stepped into that position.
instead of an alternate.
Charlie and all, we had an empty seat.
Right. And Margarita's an alternate.
Correct.
At this point.
Charlie, what's your last name?
Me too.
All this confusion reminds me of the scene in Airplane.
As I put my head
And
down.
I'll leave that one alone.
Charlie, what's your last name?
Heideck.
Hyder?
Heideck.
So anyway, the next thing on the agenda is election of officers. We need to elect chair, vice chair, and a secretary. So open up nominations.
I make a motion to have Dennis Long as the chair.
I
Second
it.
that?
Second that.
Is there any other nominations?
Just you, buddy.
Oh, yours next.
Thanks, guys, I appreciate it. All in favor? It's unanimous. The next one is the vice chair.
Nominate Leslie Berlin.
I second it.
Any other nominations? Seeing none, all in favor? It's unanimous.
It was easy.
And now the secretary.
I'll nominate Joyce.
Seconded?
Anybody else want to be secretary?
Please.
Seeing
You're so
none,
good at it.
all in favor? It's unanimous. The next thing is, I would like to do is, if you remember last year, and Charlie, this is new to you, well, maybe it's new to a lot of you. We adopted a policy on procedures that we follow. And I think, well, I know the policy and procedures that we followed last year. This is a new year and a new committee, and I believe that we should be adopting them again, so that there's any question this year, this is how we operate, and this is why we're doing what we're doing. So I would entertain a motion on that.
If anybody would like to see a copy of those.
Yes, I would, please.
Do you have one, Charlie?
You don't remember it?
Charlie has one.
I don't have it memorized.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
Yeah,
But I would like to, when I looked it over last year, and some of the issues that came about from last year, I think we should pop in there that,
give you the right one.
anybody that is on any other committees would recuse themselves from voting on a subject matter for that type of situation.
Thoughts?
Can you clarify, just so I understand fully?
Well, I believe that, I can't remember what his name was, but he was asked to recuse himself because he was on another committee, and we were taking a vote on something, which caused him to step down from the committee. There was other aspects, people that have multiple committees that they belong to. If there's any vote for that, I think it being fair, that being that he was asked to recuse himself, that those individuals from other committees recuse themselves.
So is that currently on our list of?
No, it is
It's
not.
not, okay.
I would say too, you need a conflict of interest. When you're asked to recuse yourself, or you voluntarily recuse yourself, it's due to a conflict of interest. And conflict of interest is very specific things. And the specific thing last year was, we were voting on a moratorium that was coming up. And the gentleman actually wrote the moratorium and brought it forward to the town meeting. It was known, it was publicly put out there by him what his feelings were on that. Joe was actually also asked to recuse himself because he owns a pit. There is a direct, he could lose money, gain or lose money. There's a financial thing. And the other thing to remember with a conflict of interest, if you're asked to voluntarily recuse yourself, it's up to you. We did not take a vote to recuse someone, and at least twice, and Joe asked a question, and I know he was surprised, but Joe asked a question, can we still speak? And the answer was yes.
Correct.
You can speak, but please recuse yourselves from the vote.
And that's basically what I meant
Yeah.
in that situation, as far as doing an actual vote.
Right.
Of something that would come up like that. I mean,
Right.
as Dennis had said before, everyone is welcome to speak.
Right.
Speak their mind, but on a situation, that would be a conflict.
Right.
I believe.
All right, so Ray, let me ask a question now. I'm on the road committee, so
Right.
we do a lot of work with roads. I have no financial interest in any of that. So you would be asking me to recuse myself from any votes for the, on the roads, on the warrants, because I also serve on the road committee?
Well, that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, I mean, so that's,
We gotta look at what our perception is also to the public.
Right, oh, absolutely, I agree
So,
with that.
That still comes down to even a perception of a conflict of interest, which is, there still has to be either a real conflict or the perception of it. Like when I worked for the city of Phoenix, so you were very careful, or the government in particular. But did you say it is not mandatory to recuse yourself if there is a conflict?
No.
When you
if have
ask-
financial gain,
What I said was if you ask somebody to voluntarily recuse himself,
And if they don't?
then the committee has the right to,
the committee will make
Yeah,
the decision.
Make
okay,
a
that's
motion.
good, yeah, I would hope so.
No, the committee will make the
the
decision.
committee would make the decision.
But
But I would
doing it like in Janice's example, there's no conflict at all.
My name is
There's
Leslie.
Leslie.
I'm sorry.
Leslie.
What the hell I'm thinking?
We'll get it right.
You're Ray, right?
I mean,
It's the first
and
meeting
the
of the
committee
year.
is an advisory committee, so they have no power to do anything anyway. I mean, we make recommendations to, and advise the select board. So, and like I said, I have no financial gain. The only
There's
thing,
no need to have such a stipulation.
Is there really, yeah, my point is it really necessary to have this when this is already covered by main statute?
Town,
You have home rule,
Right.
but you can't make it less restrictive.
that's right.
You can make it more restrictive, not less. So I
that
see
would
this
make
as a moot issue.
Right, legally, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, what I would do, Ray, if the committee agrees, anytime that you feel, it might be a conflict of interest, when we're having discussions about stuff, bring it up.
Yeah.
We'll discuss it, and, if you're very insistent, there's a conflict of interest, the committee will vote whether or not it is, and we'll go from there.
How many of us are on more than one committee?
No, I'm not.
no, you're not now.
I'm just on this one.
But there were 3 hands that went up.
Right, Joe?
Capital improvement.
Capital improvement.
Capital
More of a-
improvement. I mean,
When the argument was made last year about being conflict of interest, one of them was brought up, was the Flag Ground Road, where we voted on some money for the Flag Ground Road. I should have recused myself because I was getting gain out of it. And my argument is, whether it's a transfer station, or the roads, the fire department, the school for a lot of us, the rec, we all get some kind of benefit from everything the town spends money on, one way or another. So to be totally unbiased, I guess, is impossible.
Yeah, you weren't making any additional gain by that. I was getting the same thing out of that road being fixed
Yeah.
as you necessarily, or when
There was
Buzzell
a-
Road gets fixed. And I'm not going to recuse myself. I don't think.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a perfect example of it, I believe it was 2 weeks ago at the select board meeting, might have been 3 weeks now. One of the selectmen knew of a company that would do the kind of work that was necessary to finish the back of this building. Knew them very well. On his own, he decided when it came time to open bids and vote and all that, he just stepped back because he's used them, he knows the owner. Not that he would get, but there was a very close
There's
connection.
an appearance, huh?
There was an appearance. And
Favoritism.
and, yes, exactly. And if you read the definition of conflict of interest in our articles, it's really monetary, and is it to better you, your wife, your son, a family member? And I think, I don't think any of us really fall into that, unless, as in the case last year, Joe definitely had a financial issue with, a loss of money or not loss of money, depending, if you're...
I felt it was more of a invasion of my rights as a property owner and having gone through this for 30 years ago.
Right.
And inability to make a decision on something that these people have no knowledge of, and I do. It's like coming into your living room and telling you what you can and you can't do, and
Yeah.
but I
Very understandable.
respectfully said, it wasn't so much of a financial thing, it was just a matter of principle.
Right.
And,
From the outside, though, it looks like, if he...
Well, whatever, yeah.
If he
It is
votes
whatever it was.
without it, he's gonna lose money. So naturally, what's he gonna do? Vote for it, so he
Yeah,
can keep his bid open.
Any public office, it's always the appearance,
Yeah.
not what we think it looks like, but what are the
It's on
people
the
that
outside.
we're here to work for, as it were.
Yeah,
Perception.
perception.
What does it look like from the outside?
And I think that was the example that you used, Joyce, as far as the selectman.
Right, it
He
was-
had no personal gain.
None.
But it was the perception of the public of him voluntarily.
Yeah,
recusing
exactly.
himself. And that's kind of like where I was kind of going with that. I mean, it's the perception from that aspect of it. And like I said, I figured I'd bring it out and see where we could go with it.
And I think too, right, that, if anyone does, like as Dennis said, if anyone does perceive that someone might have, on the board, a conflict, to certainly bring it out, and then,
We'll discuss it.
yeah, I mean, it's,
So then there would be no need to change our...
I don't see where there would be a need to insert that, because it's so restrictive that, I don't see how that would be a benefit when we can do it at a case by case.
Okay.
That, plus it's covered by statute, so it's a redundancy that would just complicate things down the road. Question I have is, having been in several different towns on boards of various natures, when you do have someone who recuses themselves voluntarily or by direction, do they remove themselves physically from the dais and sit in the audience, or do they still sit here?
Yeah.
Because typically, in other towns I've been, you would actually stand up, remove yourself, and that way there's no opportunity for you to be perceived as having a conflict or having a say or direct or indirect pressure on any other member when you're sitting out in the audience.
I think that could be handled, also on a case by case. I know several times on the planning board, I recused myself from issues in my neighborhood. And I generally did not participate just for
You didn't want to be
that
lynched.
reason. But I wasn't asked to not participate, but that
Right.
was my choice to not do it.
Correct.
But I did stay in my seat.
Right, okay. I'm just pointing out what I've experienced in other towns.
Always good to know.
And normally, if you recuse yourself, you give a reason why you can recuse.
Oh, always.
yourself.
Yep.
So you all right with that, Ray?
Good?
Okay. So with that being said, can I have a motion on adopting our policy and procedures?
I'll make a motion, we adopt the standing policies, procedures, and that include the roles of, and the purpose of this.
And a second.
I'll second.
Any more discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor? And it's unanimous.
Question I have is, should we not have had the motion and it's seconded before we had a discussion?
That is parliamentary procedure.
That's right, because we, Ray? Don't do that again. Just wait till we have a motion. You're right, Charlie. 100%. The next thing on the agenda, for those of you who don't know, the fire chief is giving his resignation. And we have an ordinance on how we hire a new chief. It's laid out pretty clear. A 7-member commission consisting of 3 active department members elected/appointed by the department, the selectman liaison to the department, Warrant and Finance Committee liaison or member chosen by the committee, retired or active member of a municipal and rescue department appointed by the selectmen, and a member of the public to be selected by the other 6 members on the commission. So where we're at now, the selectmen have not got the commission set up yet. They're waiting for us to come up with somebody from the Warrant and Finance Committee that would be willing to serve on this commission. I have no idea, because they haven't set it up yet, what night they'll meet, if they'll meet once a week, if they'll meet 4 times a week. So when whoever's willing to participate in this, your evenings need to be available for I have no idea how many meetings it's gonna take. When they did this last time, they went through the whole process. We had a full-time chief, and they didn't really like the applications we had, whatever, and they changed it to a part-time chief, and so the process started all over for a part-time chief. I would assume, which I never should do, that the new position or the new person will also be part-time, because in order to go to full-time, we'd have to have a special warrant article to give them some more money to pay for the difference. So with that being said, I'll open up to anybody that would like to serve on this commission.
Interesting, but not having any idea of the schedule is kind of hard to.
And that's it, Bill. I mean,
Yeah,
they might meet once a week. I don't know. I just, they haven't said.
We don't know how often, we don't know how long.
No.
And the way I read what they have posted online on the website is that they can actually decide whether or not they accept your proposed member.
Well, in the ordinance, it says that we send a representative, and I don't, how do you get that, Charlie, I guess?
Well, I don't have it in front of me,
No, I appreciate that.
so I can't.
We can't, but my understanding, I mean, this is
Pretty much verbatim.
verbatim out of the ordinance.
I'm
The way
going
this
by
is
what's
written.
posted online right now for
Yeah,
for what they're looking for.
Right.
Member from the public, and they're looking for one currently from Warrant and Finance, et cetera. They've already got the liaison selected.
From where?
Tom,
Oh, that's selectmen. The selectmen,
yeah, that's a selectman.
selectmen, that's what I said, the selectmen.
Yeah,
That's-
Oh, I thought you meant for the Warrant and Finance
yeah,
Committee.
I misunderstood as well.
No, I'm sorry, Charlie, I misunderstood.
No worries.
Now, knowing Leslie's name as well as I do. You were gonna do it because.
I was
by default, because you were the liaison.
Yeah, we got an
The
email about
liaison,
that, right?
yes.
Right, and what
Yeah.
happened?
Well, I talked to Leslie about this, and what I would like to see is to have different liaisons this year than we had last year. And the reason for this is, I would use me for an example. I've been the liaison to the school for many, many years. And I think it's more beneficial to the members, especially the new members, which is basically everybody, to change off so that it's old hat to me, with the school, for example. I pretty much know what they're gonna do and what things mean, and I think it'd be nice for a new set of eyes for the departments to, just a new set of eyes. I think it's a good idea. So if you decide that everybody wants to stay the same way, again, the committee decides what the committee wants to do. But I think it would be beneficial to the townspeople with a different set of eyes, because then you have a new perspective on what we're spending the money on.
Dennis, how many different liaison positions are there?
This one here, there's the school, the road department, the fire department, the rec department, transfer station,
And land
municipal
use.
government,
Land use.
and land use.
Yeah.
So that's what, 7?
7.
So everybody could be a liaison, and I could just sit back and not do anything. But also what we've tried to do too, somewhat, and the people have to work together a little bit. We've had 2 liaisons to oversee, for example, the school department, because sometimes you can't make the meeting, and they have their meetings at 5 o'clock, and for some people that's hard to do. So, or if somebody was sick, the other person would go, or you both go. And we've done the same thing with the municipal government. We've had 2 people that try to attend the selectmen's meetings and kind of keep on top of what's going on. Some of the other departments, I think it's a little harder, because you're depending more on a one-on-one conversation with a department head, and you don't really need 2 people going to the department and asking the same questions, and you're not on the same page. But with the fire thing, I believe it's different. I think what we need is a liaison to the fire department, but we also have to appoint a Warrant and Finance Committee member to the commission. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the same person.
To this specific
This
commission. Okay.
specific
Yeah.
commission. So this would be a short-term responsibility. And the liaison to the fire department could be the same person, but it could easily be 2 different people. Somebody that's willing to stick out for the whole year.
Bless you.
And somebody that's gonna, I mean, obviously, for the next, hopefully, couple of months, we're gonna close this deal out and we'll have a new fire chief.
For the purpose of clarity, how are we defining liaison? What is the duties and responsibilities? What is its function?
Normally, Charlie, what we've done, say if, like last year, I was liaison to the school, there's different issues that came up with the school, things they had to address, whether it be the heating system, or, that's a good example, the heating system. And the liaison would report back to the Warrant and Finance Committee what was going on in that department that come up. So what would be nice is, and we'll go back to the fire chief. Once we get a new fire chief, you could set up a meeting, sit down and talk with them, see what they're looking at for the future, because the fire department has a good plan laid out. And obviously, some of the stuff would change in the plan because of necessities. And you would report back to the Warrant and Finance Committee whatever issues that that department might be having and explain it to us. So that when we get to the point where we are voting on something, hopefully everybody have a clearer understanding.
At a later date, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a non-voting position on this commission, or as far as they're selected?
On the commission.
The commission is gonna be a voting.
Okay.
Obviously, the commission would have to vote to hire whoever they decide they're gonna hire, so that would be a vote. And that's why I say it's two different things. And if you guys want the same person to do it, I'm fine with it. But it could easily be two different people, because it's two different responsibilities. So with all that being said, it's up to you guys what you wanna do.
I'll go for commission.
You would?
I'll do it.
Anybody else wants to jump in?
On the commission,
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm very tempted, I just, the
Come on.
lack of scheduling, yeah,
Margarita said she'd do it.
right.
So we need to decide if you do want to do it. So I'm gonna let you two sit next to each other and argue who's gonna end up doing it. 'Cause I'm not in the middle of it.
It does not matter to me. But nobody else was jumping, so.
Yeah.
Nobody else is showing. I think the thing,
I think the thing with Phil has a possibly conflict of not knowing, all right, and his timing, so.
Oh, I have the
I
same
think
conflict.
he has,
Oh, she does,
Margarita
yeah.
has.
Anybody would in this case, right?
Yes.
If
Yeah, in
we
this
don't know
case.
anything.
I
Yeah.
mean, I assume it'd be evenings.
Yeah, it's gonna be evenings, I'm sure.
I think
I mean, sometimes it's
But it could
even
be, it could
Saturday.
be a number of,
How about one of us be an alternate in case we can't
Well,
make it?
I don't think
Think you
we
can
can
do
really
it.
do that
Oh,
with
okay.
that, because this is,
Great idea.
Right.
you're gonna be doing interviews, and it's gonna be personnel issues, and,
Yeah, the ordinance is very
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all yours, young lady.
All right.
So what we need to do is, take a motion to, appoint Margarita to the, Fire Commission.
Make a
I'll make-
motion to appoint Margarita to the Fire Commission.
I'll second that.
All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Margarita, for that.
You're welcome.
Now we get to, our appointments. For our liaisons. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of it, a year ago, when we did this, the department heads were told by the Board of Selectmen that they couldn't talk to the liaisons from the Warrant and Finance Committee, which I am gonna hope this year it'll be different, because it always was historically. If you were a liaison, say, to the transfer station, you could go out and talk to the transfer station superintendent, and just like we said earlier, Charlie, any issues or changes or big things you come out, you could relay it back to the Warrant and Finance Committee. And I'm hoping it's gonna be back that way. I just wanted for clarification, this is how it was last year. and I'm hoping this is a new year, moving forward in a positive manner, and we'll be able to do our job.
Do the departments have formal budget meetings with the Board of Selectmen or the town, or how do they formulate their budget for the coming year, which we would then be looking at the warrants following that?
What they've been doing, Charlie, is the departments would present their budgets to the selectmen. The selectmen would decide and meet with them, I don't want to use the word privately, but, usually in their office, at a 5 o'clock meeting or something like that. I mean, obviously, anybody can go to it. And the selectmen would tell them what they can have for a budget, or what they can't have. And then the selectmen would take that and put that to the Warrant and Finance Committee. So, because the department says they want something, doesn't mean that, sometimes we don't see what they wanted.
That's the impetus for my question, is to have a better understanding and actually be able to have information that's useful to the board, the Warrant and Finance, is it would be nice to have the background information on what it is these departments are looking for and their rationale.
Exactly, I agree with you 100%.
And a lot of that
So
would come
do
from the
we-
liaison.
It doesn't,
And so if the liaison's not included in those meetings, then it's just a puppet position.
Then we have to wait until they have to, I say they have to, when they come to us, and then we can get all the details and stuff we want in the budget process.
But then what would the purpose of the liaison be?
Each department will come to us and say,
In February or
in
March.
February or March, and say, this is what we're looking for. And sometimes it differs, you know, and,
So the departments will come and meet with the Warrant and Finance at one of these publicly scheduled
We
meetings
get the
Once
budget.
they've decided what their budget is, but you're asking
beforehand.
prior to that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's your purpose?
Correct.
So I to
Gather
answer
the
your question,
information.
and you're right, it's just this puppet position, but if it's done the way it should be very informative,
I have a question.
liaison.
Would it be beneficial then to ask the selectmen if we would be allowed, as far as liaisons, because they weren't permitting the liaisons to talk to the department heads?
Well, you're saying it backwards, right?
Well, last year I'm talking about the way that they did it. They
Department heads couldn't talk to the,
Warrant and Finance.
Right.
Okay, so is it gonna be allowed this year? Because last year they didn't allow it. So,
well,
with that question answered, then I think at that point, instead of just having a liaison with, for whatever department, that they really can't do anything, why appoint a liaison?
well, Leslie answered that pretty well last year. This board is an elected board, and as an elected board, we're advisory, yes, but we have rights. And one of our rights is to husband this warrant. And I think last year we were very surprised that we couldn't do our jobs properly, or the way they should have been done. And Leslie, I know, brought it up that, hey, we're an elected board, and I think if something like that were to happen again, I personally don't think it will, because there was a lot of uneasiness last year about it. I think if it were to happen again, it's a simple matter of Warrant and Finance is here, we're an elected official, this is our job, we're gonna do our job.
Can we confirm this and table this? Can we confirm how it's going to look this year?
we can do whatever.
We can do what you want.
You know what I
But we
mean?
don't know.
That's
what
why I was
the
saying, ask the
selectmen
question.
Right. Can we
But the
table
issue
voting on
is-
these liaisons, confirm with the select board and all of them, and then once we have an answer on how it will look?
Yeah, that's fine. But you need to understand that we're accountable to the townspeople.
say. Yeah, not the
Not the
selectmen.
Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen, and I'm not criticizing the Board of Selectmen here, I'll make that very clear. we have our own rules. We are elected by town meeting. We decide when we're gonna meet, what we're gonna meet on, and what we're gonna do. We're totally independent, or almost, I don't know.
In essence, we do not need the selectmen's permission to do anything.
It's
So then
nice.
why did it stop us last year?
Well, they couldn't stomp us.
Oh,
They did.
But, no, what they stopped was this, their argument, their employees could not talk to us.
Ah, so they didn't stop us from doing it.
They stopped them from doing it with us. Because I was explained very clearly to them. And I also had a question sent to Maine Municipal about it. Maine Municipal was very clear that the Warrant and Finance Committee operates under their own guidance of the town meeting. And if people don't like what the Warrant and Finance Committee is doing, they can vote them out at the next election. And this has been kind of I'm hoping we're moving past that.
Okay.
And I believe we are. And I'd like to put my best foot forward and say respectfully, we need to do this and we need this information. And if it ends up that the board says no, then we'll discuss it amongst ourselves and decide how we're gonna move forward.
Okay.
So I think having the liaisons, I understand what
order,
you're saying,
yeah.
Margarita, but I would like to have it in place, so if there isn't an issue,
Gotcha.
we can move forward from this night on.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that it won't be.
Yes, I can, to what Dennis is saying, I chair the Capital Improvement Committee. We work on the same way. We have to talk to every department out there. Not once were we told, not one employee was told we could not communicate together. We had meetings with, I think
Everybody.
you went up to the transfer station.
It was on a road.
The roads, you did the roads and,
What's capital improvement you talking about?
sorry?
You talking about capital improvement?
Right, yeah.
The fellow, the other guy.
Wayne.
Wayne, when he did the transfer station, I believe.
Yeah.
So that worked out very well for the Capital Improvement
Right.
Committee. And so I'm hoping that this year's new year and
And
everything's
I
gonna
think
be
that's why I think it's gonna go forward, that we're
one big group hug.
kumbaya
I was
moment.
just gonna say kumbaya.
It's a power.
So.
You know, and I don't think that we should assume that we're gonna have the same difficulties.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that.
So,
You know, but I just want to be very clear up front that this is,
Right. I understand it better. I had it reversed in my head.
yeah.
Yeah, I haven't.
So with that being said,
yeah, we,
Everybody.
in particular, is very insecure.
who wants to take the school?
I do.
You do?
Yep.
The school
Love
budget,
schools.
well, when they start, but the school board meetings typically are at 5 o'clock, which is hard for somebody. Normally the department's there unless something comes up. They have their budgets in by the 1st of January, and then the school committee and whatever does that.
Somebody else too,
Yeah, it'd be nice to have two.
yeah.
And if you can't make the meeting, the nice thing is you can always watch it on APAT and see what the heck's going on anyway, you know? So I'd like to have another person for the school.
I do it.
You do it, Ray?
Is this a primary and an alternate again?
No,
No, just two?
No.
Just two
I
liaisons.
think, you know, a $5 million budget and some of the stuff that was on with the school especially, there's a lot of, as you know, Margarita, from last year, there's a lot to go through.
at the end of their project, it's like
Missing part of
everybody
the
goes.
Right.
Like we did last year.
Yeah.
You know, when they're putting it all together, this whole committee goes and we work.
So the
Very well.
next thing I'd like, to have somebody for the roads.
I'd like to do that.
You'd like to do that? Does anybody else would like to do that?
I would too.
Well, I think, no disrespect to anybody else, but I think we probably have the two most knowledgeable road people that just volunteered, so I think that's a great thing.
Absolutely. And I think we got both sides of town covered very well.
Yeah. I mean, Leslie has
She's got the whole
extensive
town,
amount of
but
experience
she
in
lives on
classes
one
she's
side,
taken,
yeah.
and
And she drives on Buzzell Road.
She drives on,
That it is.
So the next one would be the fire department. That can easily be one person that would try to hopefully, meet with the chief every once in a while, find out what his schedule is and if there's anything coming up, and just, if there is, just, well, maybe you could just do an email with him or something.
Can do that.
You want to do that, Margarita? Okay. It shouldn't be a lot of work.
the thing that Cap Improvement found out is when they have their meetings, sometimes an outsider is really not invited in because they're talking about personnel issues. So, the former chief was really great about come in, coffee, sit down and go out,
Yeah.
There was never a feeling of being snubbed because, nope, you can't.
No, and the thing is with the fire department, and the school,
They're very good.
they have a very clear capital improvement plan. So that helps a lot. It helps a lot.
Theirs goes out 50 years.
So the next thing would be the transfer station. As most of you know, we have a new superintendent up there. Bobby Mann stepped down, and now it's Robin Ham. And they haven't come out publicly and said a lot, but I know he's looking at a lot of changes up there and a lot of improvements. So there should be quite a bit to, obviously he's gonna go to the capital improvement committee with this stuff, and obviously they'll be coming to us about it. And I think there's a lot of big ticket items that we're looking at.
I'll do that.
You wanna do that?
I'll do that.
Well, don't let everybody else off the hook. This road thing could be a full-time job trying to keep Joe in line.
All right, if someone else wants it, sure. Whatever,
Does somebody want to do the transfer station? If you're not jumping out of your seat to do it,
I'll do it.
Charlie will.
Go.
Charlie will do it.
Okay.
Oh, good, Charlie.
So is that Charlie and Leslie, or just Charlie?
I think we just do one.
Okay.
I think that's the smaller,
Spread us out a little bit, yeah.
I think it's easier. Now the municipal government.
I nominate you.
I'll do that one.
You do that one? And I really think we ought to have two for that.
Probably.
Ray, have you said anything?
Yeah, but you haven't.
Yeah,
He's trying to not have it.
He's trying to not have one.
Yeah, that's it.
We know you
Two on
can.
municipal.
He's got a vacation coming.
I was trying to think of some way it could be a conflict of interest, but I can't.
I think that'll be good. Yeah, I'll take also the municipal.
Thank you, Ray.
So two?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's, around $1 million.
They could carpool, same road.
Literally, yeah.
And honestly, Ray usually comes to the selectmen's meetings anyway, and that's where you're gonna learn a lot, is right at the selectmen's meetings, The rec department.
You did that one last year, right?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I did.
I'll do the rec. How's
Thank
that?
you. Good.
How's that? The rest got a lot of changes coming up, and that ought to be interesting.
Yeah.
So we are all a liaison this year.
I believe we all are. Have we forgotten anybody?
Land use?
Land use department.
I'll do that one.
Oh, we're all, okay,
You want to do it?
sure.
Okay, it's yours.
Wait a second, he's the chair.
I just pull my name back.
She kicks me. That's why
kick
she
him under
sits
the
next to
table.
me.
So you and Joyce and Charlie, or just Charlie?
Charlie,
Now Charlie do it.
So Charlie's on
Land use and
2,
transfer.
Ray's on 2. Everybody on here.
Joe's on 2.
yes.
Leslie's on 2.
What's Joe on?
Eight of us.
Roads?
Right? Road and what else?
Dennis. What other one am I on?
You only on that one?
I'm only on the road, yeah.
I'm only
Yeah.
on one, then sure.
Both of you are only on 1, roads.
You know, we got,
Well, I would like to see,
I know, that's it. I knew it.
because this will be a conflict, I would like to see, give Leslie another one that's capital improvement.
Capital improvement, okay.
Just appointing her?
Is that all right?
I'm not gonna argue with you tonight.
Wait, I don't see it on my list.
capital improvement, we're a new committee.
Well, that would eliminate any conflict, 'cause we have 2 people on here that are members.
Right.
So somebody on
We
the
meet at
outside.
4:30 during the week, on Tuesdays.
Then there's
On
8
Tuesdays
departments.
or Wednesdays?
Who's the other one guy?
I'm just
Tuesdays.
saying,
Well, we had
municipal,
seven,
land use,
October.
schools,
What?
As long as it's
transportation,
after
road, fire
October.
department,
I'm sorry?
recreation, and now the capital
I
improvement.
did not hear you.
As long as it's
improvement makes
after
it 8.
October.
Our first meeting is September 22nd.
Right.
Right?
I work Tuesdays.
Well, you will miss
I
the
mean,
first
capital
meeting.
improvement isn't the department.
So Leslie's on capital improvement.
Yeah,
It needs a
It
liaison.
needs a raise,
it needs a liaison.
because that's, boy, I tell you, the money they want to spend, I don't know what we're gonna do.
So cap improvement is Leslie, school is Joyce and Ray.
Who's spending it? The selectmen or the capital improvement?
Capital improvement.
We're not spending it.
Oh, you have, Joe?
We're
I
investing.
watched you.
We're investing it into the future of the town.
Just
It's been
saying.
neglected, all right?
You're taking,
listen
you're
to
taking,
Jack?
you're taking the hate hit
We
for
were
it, not
investing,
me.
all right? So, change your words, your adjectives, because,
Okay, what I've got for the minutes, you're gonna see, is school department, Ray and I. Roads, Joe and Leslie. Fire, Margarita. Transfer station, Charlie. Municipal, Ray and Phil. Rec, Dennis. Land use, Charlie. Cap improvement, Leslie.
That's what I
What
got.
I got.
Good.
So is everybody good with all that?
Yep.
Will you be publishing a list of this?
I think we should,
Distribute?
I will.
yeah.
They should
Should
be
be in the
included on our
minutes of next
It'll be in
right?
your next minutes.
Yeah.
Should make a motion to,
I think by consensus,
liaison. We're all right?
I think by consensus,
Think we're all right, Charlie?
we're all set.
All right. So be it. Boy, we're flying. Meeting schedule. The question is, how often do you want to meet? Last year, we started, I don't remember when it was, October, I think, and we started meeting once a month. What does the committee want to do?
I think that worked out well.
That time you
I'm fine with once a month for now,
Well, you know.
until the busy season.
You know, until after Christmas, and we're gonna be a couple times a month.
Oh, yeah. I
Not
mean,
more.
Every week, you
Yeah.
know, for a while, but, until then, does everybody want to do once a month?
Works. You think, right?
So we'll do that. And we'll set up Monday nights. I've always tried to keep stuff on Monday nights. Does that work for everybody? That seems to be the night that most committees don't meet. so-
Mondays at 6?
Yeah, and if we can maintain that, I think it'll be easier for everybody.
First, second, third, fourth Monday.
Fourth Monday, huh?
Huh?
Fourth?
Oh, you guys decide that. I don't
That
care.
was a question. Fourth Monday?
No, which Monday?
What did we do last year?
I don't know.
whatever we needed, I think.
It doesn't matter to me.
I think we kind of jumped around.
That's the other thing, if we need a meeting, as long as Dennis gives
10 days.
10 days, we have a meeting.
So fourth Monday of the month for now?
For now, sure enough.
You want to shoot for that?
Yep,
So that's what we'll set up the calendar. We'll figure out what the dates are, and
okay.
we'll put that out to everybody in the minutes.
It would be...
Starting October?
1, 2, 3, 4. Starting in October?
Is that when you want to start, in October?
It's reasonable, yeah, there's not too much to do prior to that,
Right.
Right.
Okay, so that would be October 24th.
except remember Leslie's name.
Yeah. Nice thing about, that late in October, the audit should be done, so we'll have something to look at.
Let's hope it's not a Bible this year.
October 24th?
Yes.
Yes.
And another thing that I want to talk about is the information that we get for the financials from the town. I think we should have, monthly reports for us to look at, for expense disbursements and things like that, so we can have an actual, in our mind, exactly where the money's going.
Are you gonna request that?
Yeah, if this is what the committee wants, this is what.
No, I think we should have been doing that right along.
What's that?
I think we should have been doing that right along, just to have some sort of an insight, because there's so much, nobody knows what's going on, you know, it's like all of a sudden you have a town meeting and spending $114,000 on what and where would it go, or, and if you ask certain people, nobody seems to know, and it's sort of like, but I think on a monthly basis, how much did you spend on the roads, you know?
Right, and where the money went,
You know, and this
not just a bottom line, Joe.
snow budget is up and down.
Joe, it should be possible for them to go back and get us information from prior months. I mean,
Yeah.
they should be able to,
Well, I think it should be public information, you know, it's not only just a finance thing, but it's the
right, but I mean, with the, if the system is set up the way I think it is, it should only hit, you know, they should only have to hit like a button to print it out, and they should be able to,
Right.
it should all be compiled.
And I think it should have a description of,
No, I agree, Joe, and that's what.
not just a figure, but it's not $114,000 for, and it described what was done.
Right,
But we want it on all departments,
Yes.
correct?
Right.
All departments.
and
Yeah.
this is what we'll ask for, Joe.
Yeah.
I
Go ahead, Charlie.
don't disagree with the sentiment of everything that's been said, but I'm just trying to clarify things in my mind. Is that the purpose of the Warrant and Finance?
Yes. The finances
Or,
of the town.
is the purpose to review the warrants that are presented to us without authorship?
Both.
Both. Warrant and finance.
The thing is, we get to voting on things, Charlie, that we don't have any information on. And it gets, over the years, past year, that things get rushed, and all of a sudden, the town meeting's coming up in 57 days, and they have the Warrant and Finance to go through all this information. But we didn't have it in January, we didn't have it in February. So eventually, so it all cramped together. So, you might ask, well, what the $114,000 is for? Well, that's only one question, but by doing this here, people have a revolving, it's just like your own house budget.
So
You know in February what you're gonna need for heating oil or whatever, at least you have an idea, but this way here, it's not that it's our money as well as everybody else's.
Okay, so the board doesn't just review the efficacy of the warrants, it also goes and reviews
The data.
We'd like
the
to.
budget
Yeah.
of the town. Okay.
Yeah, we'd like to, but we haven't had access to it.
No, and you need it then.
And I
It's making no
think,
logical,
Yep,
you know.
you need it, it's required.
and Charlie, in order to make good recommendations to the townspeople, we have to understand
Yep.
how that money was spent and how they come up with.
No, I agree with that 100%.
And so yes, Warrant and Finance, and that's why it's a twofold.
Who do you request that from? Jennifer or?
What we would do is, we would,
Treasurer?
I would send a request to the town administrator, and it'd be Tom McGurty. He's the liaison for the selectmen to the Warrant Finance Committee. And I do have to say, Tom called me this afternoon, and he just couldn't make it tonight. And I told him we wouldn't be voting on anything really of substance other than operations, and there was really nothing for him to not, I told him not to worry about it.
So if he's the liaison, would his intention be to come to our meetings?
Oh, yes.
Yes, just tonight, just didn't
Gotcha.
work out.
Wouldn't it be a request from, the person who keeps the books? Not
The treasurer?
The treasurer.
It would, in the end, come from the treasurer, but the selectmen have a policy that everything has to go through the town administrator.
So the request goes to the administrator,
Then
and the
she-
administrator filters it, or not filters it, but passes that along
Yeah.
to the appropriate person.
Correct.
The department.
Do we have a new treasurer yet?
Yep.
We
Yes,
do.
we do. We have a new treasurer.
Please don't ask her name.
Because you don't know it?
I've met her.
Okay.
She's a nice person.
So then this is information we could look at in our monthly meetings starting in
Exactly.
October and
That's the
actually
whole purpose of having it.
be,
Right.
like Joe was saying, at least not, this isn't all dumped on you in February and March and
Right.
Where we have no time to really filter through and
Or ask
completely
anybody.
digest, what the data is that was dumped on us.
But before I forget this,
Good point, Janet.
anybody on this committee,
Bob for pointing that out.
anybody that has a question about something that they might think of next week or next 2 weeks or tonight, let me know what the question is, and I'll forward it to the proper, so that we can have the answers for our next meeting. So anything that you think of between now, I mean, obviously not the day of, because there's a pretty good chance you won't get the answers, but giving them time to come up with what are the answers for the questions would be very nice.
That was one of the reasons why at a selectmen meeting, I reminded them that, whatever questions that the public could possibly have, that be passed on to the different departments.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think that is communicated enough to the public that, whatever questions they have,
Send them to them.
they can do that.
Right. And, Mr. Winchell, at least twice in the last month, has stated that, it's the Warrant and Finance Committee's responsibility to make sure that all this information is put out to the public. And I agree. We can do it, and the only way we can do it is if we receive the information we need.
Your or the Warrant Finance is responsible for
Informing the public.
informing the public of the town's finances?
Yeah.
Is that not the town administrator?
Getting a couple of things straight. Theoretically, we don't have a town administrator. In theory.
Well,
You're smiling, but if we want to keep it the way it is, Jennifer is the jack of all trades here. You have to give her kudos for everything she does, absolutely. Everything has to go through Jennifer, even no matter what you want.
no, I understand that she's the gatekeeper.
She is, absolutely, and, but,
She wears multiple hats.
Yeah,
absolutely.
well, that's fine.
Yeah, that's okay, but I don't want us to get caught up on some of the wording. And the other thing to remember is what Ray was talking about, anything that this committee wants goes through Dennis, we can't approach, Jennifer directly. We have to go through
Well,
Dennis.
that stands to reason.
Yeah.
But she does carry the title of administrator.
Yeah, she does.
So then we do have an administrator.
She,
I don't know if she was she ever voted on.
And possibly.
Well, she's not
to
elected,
answer-
it's an appointed, it's a hired
salaried
position, a
position,
salaried
correct.
position, hired by the selectmen.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is in the vast majority of towns.
yeah,
That don't have city government.
Right. Yeah, she is our official town administrator.
Right, so we do have one. And that's
that's how
Jennifer.
she functions.
Right.
And I do believe
But
that.
we don't have control over, or we don't have access or ability to publish through the town website, so how are we supposed to
Maybe
get
that's a
this information
That's a
out?
conversation
That's a
that has to happen.
conversation we're gonna have to have, Charlie. With the Board of Selectmen is how we do that. Unless they're talking about just through the television, or through YouTube, because all our meetings are filmed.
Right, but I understand that. But no one's gonna wanna watch 4 hours of us going through budget line items, nor will they understand it.
Right, you're right. You're right.
But it was said that people would have to come to our meetings.
So,
Now, how
they're always
realistic is it?
welcome.
And I think that the administrator's response on that aspect would be that the report that is put out every year after we've gone through the budget and all that, because there is a report that lays out dollar amounts and whatnot.
That doesn't give you anything to help you when you're going to vote. It's
Correct.
after the fact.
Right, but it is information that the administrator is putting out, that they print out and make
You're talking
available
about
to
the
the
annual
public.
report?
Yeah, the annual report comes after the election, which is,
It's
it's
useless.
historical data.
It's
really-
historical data by then. It's useless.
But we're getting,
Off key.
off key here a
Yeah,
little bit.
Sorry, my fault.
The chairman of the selectmen the other night, brought up at the selectmen's meeting that, he would like to hire an engineer to do, road assessment. So that, to make sure that we are doing our projects. I don't know if he said, I don't think he said correctly, but that's the word I'm gonna use.
I think prioritize
Prioritizing,
might be a better
yeah,
word.
that's a good word, that's probably what he used. Because our roads are so extreme, in condition, and it's been like this for quite a while. On District 1, the roads typically are a lot better shape than they are in District 2. And I have my beliefs why that is, but I'm not a road scholar. I do know the other night that Mr. Winchell spoke up as former road commissioner and said he had spoken to Adam, District 2 road commissioner, that he need to put a finish on San Page Road over by the post office because 10, 11 years ago, the only thing was ever put on it was a base coat. It was never had a finished coat put on it. To me, this raises the question, has this been standard practice? That we don't put a finished coat on the roads that we're resurfacing? I don't know. But if we hired an engineer to look at these roads, and we have roads that have very good base under them, and we have roads that have no base under them, and it would give us a plan moving forward, because what the road commissioners have given, which I'm glad they did, they gave a 5-year maintenance plan. But that's not a capital improvement plan. That's just where they want to pave. And some of our roads are so substandard that if you're throwing pavement on it, really you're throwing your money away. And so I would like to see, the committee support, with the chairman, on getting this engineer, to do a survey on our roads and analysis so that when we moving forward, we know we're spending money wisely.
Wasn't an assessment already done
No.
through the road committee?
The road committee has gone through and surveyed using the RSMS system,
The same
which,
system that the state uses.
right, which the town meeting has purchased twice. So our town meeting felt that it was an important thing to do. We have had difficulty in getting that up and running, and the system actually now is up and running, except for the fact that the road commissioners have not updated. So the survey that we went out and spent 2 days doing is in the computer program, but it hasn't been updated with work that has been done, which is what now Kim is trying to get the road commissioners in to do. There's been some talk about all it is a historical recording of what has been, work that has been done, however, that is incorrect. It also prints out reports that will prioritize the work that should be done. It doesn't tell you what to do, but it tells you what you should be doing, as far as what roads need to be rehabilitated, what roads need just general maintenance, whatever. So and what it does is it takes the politics out of deciding what roads need work, and what roads don't.
As long as it was good data going in, yes.
Right. But we don't have, the road commissioners have not put in what they have done since we've done the road survey. They say they have it, they just need to get it in. And that is where we are with that right now. But like I said, it does more than keep a historical record. It also will help prioritize what needs to be
Or
done.
your PM,
But
preventive maintenance.
that records that you guys, the assessment you guys did, doesn't do assessment on the base. It does assessment on the road.
It does it on the surface.
Right.
Right,
And
it does it on the
that's
surface.
problem.
But in the software, there's a section for data entry for base historical data.
Right,
Right.
I agree 100%, but.
And so if that's what I mean, if
Yeah.
the data going in is
Yeah.
good, you'll get good PM
But we have
direction
nobody
coming out.
that knows this stuff.
We actually had someone from the state who helped develop this program come down and train us the first day we did the survey. So we did have some assistance from the state in helping assess what we had, but like I said, it is a road surface.
So he wants to hire an engineer who's gonna be doing corings then.
I would assume.
Okay.
I don't see any other way you could do it.
Yeah, it's the only way to do it.
Leslie, when was that done? You spent so much time on it, in days. When was,
We went out and did the survey back in September of 2018. So it took us from September of 2018 until, earlier this year, when Jennifer and I finally sat down, I finally got the ability to get in with them, and get that data in. The road commissioners
the
have,
updating?
the road commissioners need to do the updating. The
From when
updating has
forward?
not been-
I know, because they were talking about it at the last
Right.
select board meeting.
Right. But, I mean, my point is, they also said all it was a historical record. That is incorrect.
But it sure would be nice to have one.
But it would be nice to have current information. But they
So
talked,
right now, there's no like real well-established criteria on how you prioritize the work you're doing on roads.
Right.
We have a system, like any predictive system, that's only as good as what you put into it.
Right.
which right now sounds like it's not much good at all. Potentially it is. So you have mostly subjective choices determining priorities by these two gentlemen
That's
that are
exactly
road
You're
users.
you're absolutely correct.
And human nature would be to patch a hole in the road because you're trying to keep up with that, especially around here in the winter and stuff. Wasting money. So we get this engineer, which is a great idea, and he comes up with the data you actually need to put into the system to get things with a good baseline from that point forward. As long as we can get what he or she gathers and someone can input it finally with what we really need in that system, then we'd be starting for the first time with a good baseline established.
Be all database.
A whole database, yeah.
Dennis Long's opinion, don't
So if we hire this engineer, shouldn't part of that be ensuring that data we're paying for? Because we'll be no further ahead, really, if we don't take that data and do something with it.
And that's something the selectmen would have to,
That should be part of this.
Correct.
This expense. I mean, otherwise a year from now, we'll be having this conversation.
I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, I would
Don't want me to go it one finger at a time.
I would insist on that has to be part of, I mean, otherwise you're wasting money.
But I just wanted to kind of poll the committee and see if they would support what Tom wants to do. And it seems to me like, it's the right thing to do, and it takes all personal opinions and bias and everything out of it. It's all fact-based.
If it's flushed out the way it was just
We
discussed.
gather the data, you have.
Don't just gather the data, but actually implement it, you know, put it into the database, develop the system the way you want to, because otherwise, I agree, it's.
Would that mean
it's a waste.
hiring someone else who, whether it's that engineer, maybe, who knows, that actually knows how to take the data that they've collected and get it into that system? Or would that be Leslie or someone we have?
If you could,
Who has access to this data entry?
Jennifer?
Gatekeepers are nice, but you can't have bottlenecks like that, because nothing's gonna get done.
but
No, but one of the things I can
Leslie
tell you,
played a big part
Yeah.
in putting this information.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I had all of the survey sheets, and I made sure that I held on to them because things have gotten lost in the past.
I still don't have an email address, and I've asked 3 times, so I understand that.
And it took me, it literally took me years to get the survey in the system, in that computer.
She's tasked with doing too much then.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely,
Oh, she's-
absolutely.
yeah.
But there, you can't have just, if she gets sick or in a car accident, you know, God forbid, something happens, nothing happens here then, because no one else has the pass code, you know, to do anything.
That's kind of what I'm getting at
Yeah.
with utilizing this data as soon as we
Correct.
get it.
Exactly.
Use it right away.
Yeah.
The
As you collect it, you enter it.
Yes.
And the subjectiveness needs to not exist. We need to be driven by data, not by, I think this needs to be done and not that.
Well, it has to be a blend though, because, you know, it's a dynamic environment. Sometimes things change with roads for a variety of reasons, to where the road commissioners have to be able to respond outside of what the data says. You know, a culvert washes out or something like that.
That's
That's
true,
not going to be in the data.
Maintenance and
but that-
improvements are two very different things, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there has to be a little bit of flexibility there. I
Oh,
don't think we should.
absolutely, absolutely.
So what I'll do with this issue is I'll speak to Tom, and I'll say the Warrant and Finance Committee is very interested in having this conversation with you.
Yes.
And how it will play out.
If you all remember, last year, capital improvement requested and got $10,000 to hire an engineer to do municipal properties. We did include things like the parking lots, you know, municipal complex, this building, that building, the parking lot, fire department and the parking lot, transfer station and parking lot. And I think the transfer station was in there. We have now been, we have gone out, we can't really solicit an RP, but capital improvement is charged with finding the engineering companies that will do this and then moving that information forward. And we have found 3 companies, 4 actually, that do this kind of thing. Now it's up to the administration to go to them for RPs. One we already know, it's not an official thing, but when Tom was on capital improvement, he was looking for companies, and one guy sent back right away. He did a drone flyover thing. But what they do, all 3 of them do, is they come out and they do their site work. They come up, and I can't, if they're willing to do parking lots, I don't think it could be a whole lot different with roads. Your reports come to you in about 4 different ways. You have a written report. You have an emailed report. You have a, what would I call it? A memory stick report. I mean, you get it every single way you can think, the communication, as well as they'll come out and give you their assessment of the different areas.
My first question to that, though, is you hired somebody to do an assessment. Assessment is a pretty ambiguous word. Are they looking structural integrity? Or is it just general appearance?
No, structural.
Because to me, if you're going to actually hire an engineering firm, having a little bit of engineering background, you should spell out what it is that you actually want.
The report that went in is spelled out completely. You know, it's structural.
But doing a flyover with a drone is
Well, no,
not
this was
structural.
No, of course it's not. But this is a guy was showing us, you know, his example of,
That's
you know, we take this
I wouldn't
thing-
hire that firm.
Well, I wouldn't either, and they're not from around here.
I guess the one that brings a lot attention to a lot of people, Charlie, is this building.
Yeah,
As it should. It's your centerpiece.
And one reason it brings a lot of attention is because when people come here, they look at the TV room and they look down near the bottom of the floor and then look up near the ceiling.
The ceiling.
And they say that the damn building's tipping over.
Yeah.
Okay.
The same issue on this wall.
But the truth of the matter is, back 12 years ago, the insurance company shut this building down. Nobody could come in it. It wasn't safe.
Wasn't safe, why? Fire?
Because it was
electrical?
falling over.
Structural? Okay.
And the foundation was deteriorated. So what we did was, we hired an outfit to come in, fix the foundation, jack the building back, and that's why these posts are sticking out. So they jacked it back as far as they could, without breaking stuff. And put a whole new foundation underneath that side, put a new drainage system down, so the stuff from the church and coming down the parking lot all went out back. So when that project was done, I built that TV room, all right? And the top of it, I deliberately put the trim to the wall, so that somebody could look at that and see if it's moved at all from where it was. And in 12 years, it hasn't. So the foundation has been redone. It's been jacked back. It looks like it's gonna fall over, but the insurance company
the ceiling's
okays
doing
it now.
this.
And just like the insurance company shut down the gym. So what this engineer should be doing, my understanding, is come and look at this building, look at the structure, see the stability of it, and say, you know, it isn't worth putting any more money into. You know, it needs too much work. There's other stuff that I have no idea what needs to be done. All I did was address the needs the insurance company had. What's underneath here, who knows? What's up there, I've been up there, but I don't fit up through that hole anymore.
I don't think so. I'm looking at that, I'm looking at you.
So that, I mean, that's what we're really looking at. And the issue is that the town meeting voted to do this.
Yeah.
And honestly, as far as I'm concerned, it should have already been out for an RFP.
Right, that sounds, process seems backwards to me. You know, the selectmen should have been, you've got the warrant, you've got the funds approved by the town. It's up to the selectmen to actually move.
Yes.
And
It is.
either light a fire under the administrator's can to go and
And again, she
issue
just
it.
does what the selectmen say.
She only does what the selectmen tell her.
You know what I mean?
I'm a dreamer, huh?
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, you've heard her say it many times.
Never come down this.
She does what the selectmen tell her to do.
I think we're getting away from the subject matter of the
No, I know.
question that you had
But
asked.
the thing is, an
You're right.
engineer
Are we going to
is a
support?
positive, not a negative.
And I think we
The
are.
hiring of
okay.
an engineer
Yeah.
to assess the
He
road.
wants the power, so it costs us.
There's two more things. I know it's been a long meeting.
Have to make a motion?
I don't think so. I think just consensus will be fine. This,
It's discussion, under discussion, put it that way.
we need to look very hard at our undesignated fund balance this year.
At the what fund balance?
Undesignated fund, because we're up to about, before this new audit, around $5 million
Sounds like a pizza party.
that we have in our surplus.
5 million?
Yeah,
I wanted to make sure I heard that right.
no, you did. Approximately 5 million, and I think with the audits done this year, with the gains that we've had consistently in the last few years, that it's gonna be over 5 million by the time the
So
audit's done.
are we being overtaxed?
Well, that's a whole nother conversation, Joe. The issue really is, it's gonna be coming up, is what are we gonna do with this money? Do we put it to, capital expenses? Do we reduce the tax rate? Do,
We just had a
Building
tax
the town hall.
reduction this past year, right?
No.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did, by 10, 15 cents.
yeah, but the trouble is the way the tax rate's done.
Yeah.
They wanna leave the tax rate the same and this and that. But what happens is they're not taking into full account of the revenues. When you have, $50 million more in assessment because of all the construction, the new homes and all that stuff,
Look at it, look at.
when you leave the
West
tax
Shore.
rate the same, you're bringing in, another $50,000 or $100,000 or whatever it is.
Gotcha.
And you consistently don't take that into account. And that's why every year for several years now, our undesignated fund balance has been going up $300,000, $400,000, $500,000.
Okay.
How often is an assessment done on property? Is it every 10 years?
We voted this year, Phil, if you remember, to have a reval done. I have not seen or heard anything about it, an RFP on doing a reval. For $180,000, $190,000, I assume it would go out to bid, or at least it should. But they haven't said anything at all about it yet, and I haven't heard any movement on that at all. The reval, the last time we did it, I thought it took about a year and a half.
That's typical.
And so when they do your reval, everybody knows what the price of houses are now compared to when we last did it in 2010, 2011. So your valuation right now at 800 million with a reval could easily go to $1 billion.
It's a good time to change the mill rate.
I would
think so.
I would hope. Otherwise, in 10
Perfect
years, we're gonna
justification, that's
have,
for sure.
$80 million in our undesignated fund balance. And right now, we're looking at about 5/8 of our total budget is in our undesignated fund balance. And that's pretty high.
What did you say, Dennis?
About 5/8.
That's over half.
Yes.
I've had conversations with Tom over this, because money is Tom's expertise, and I'm hoping that we'll have some kind of a plan coming down from the selectmen this year to address this, whatever we spend it on. I mean, we put $350,000 towards Square Farm Bridge last year. We got the road bridge down here that the selectmen have been trying to get the road commissioner to set up a meeting with Milton for 3 or 4 months now, and it hasn't moved. The state is talking about, what was they saying, Leslie, the letter they sent out?
That it needs to be addressed.
And this is the first time that I ever knew of the state saying, along with their bridge report, you need to do something with this. Usually they just get,
You're referring to road bridge?
yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or they can shut it.
And that's down to like, I think in the 20s,
Yeah,
20% or 25%.
yeah.
I think, I want to think it was, the federal sufficiency rate was like 29%.
Yeah,
About that, yeah.
If I remember correctly.
So-
And that was a recent bridge report, I think in 2021.
2021 was the last one, yes.
I mean, the bottom line is, the pavement, I mean, not the pavement, yeah, the pavement too, but the cement underneath it is deteriorating. And a lot of it, well, it's a fact, is
Yeah.
because of salt usage. And years ago, they used to, put a, treatment over the concrete every few years, and that hasn't been done for 25 years, 30 years, and the concrete underneath is deteriorating,
And the road
steel.
commissioners do not,
and the steel.
they, in the spring, they do not clean that off. So the salt sits there all year long.
So those are just some of the things that we might be looking at to spend some of this money that we got, that we've,
We got West Shore Drive coming up too, with the engineers reports due in any day.
yeah, but we already put 350,000 towards that, so
Well, let's see if that's enough.
Let's see if it's enough,
if it isn't, it isn't, we'll have to address it, but.
yeah.
Yeah, there is a new grant, just to let everyone know, there is a new grant, opening up, well, actually, the grant period's already open, where if we do a stream crossing on that, there's $150,000 that would be available for us to apply for, to
Deadline?
offset the, I'm sorry?
Deadline?
Deadline.
The deadline is, mid-November, I believe. But by the time, we should know that, we've got 3 sketch plans coming in from an engineer for a replacement, so hopefully we will know what way we're gonna approach that, because if it's not a stream crossing, we can't apply for it. And, I spoke with the gentleman who is running that program, and he, told me that the grant processes, they've actually simplified it a little bit, and, he encouraged us to apply. But like I said, we'll only get that money if it's a stream crossing, not an in-kind replacement.
And that's an outright grant, or is it a grant that requires
They will.
municipal funds
They
matching?
do- It's not matching. They'll, fund up to, he said he thought it was 80 or 90%. They will fund up to 150.
With the grant money?
Yeah.
I think the other thing that was very intriguing about that was if you apply for the grant, you get the grant, but life comes in the way. You have not encumbered the town in any way. The grant just goes back.
And it's
Goes
up
back-
to 2
goes to-
years.
2 years, I believe, isn't it, Leslie?
Yeah, it was
2 years to act?
You have 2 years to use the money, or it goes back to the next, to the next
Next person down the line,
municipality
Yeah.
that would have
So you're
qualified.
not encumbering the town
I
at
see,
all.
I see Margarita is tired from working,
Wow, one stretch and I got called out.
and,
I did one stretch.
And look, you look so good at the end of the summer, I don't want to hear it.
the
You got
truth of the
water
matter
sometimes.
is, as everybody knows, I have a tendency to drag things out, and Joel's looking at me like I'm gonna go to sleep, Dennis.
I'm gonna put you in that upstairs.
There is another big
Quiet
issue.
you up a little.
There is just, this is the last one. There is another big issue that the selectmen have been, going back and forth on, and that's the doing away with town meeting. Our open town meeting. Two of the selectmen thinks it's a good idea, and one of them doesn't. He doesn't. The chairman doesn't think it's a good idea. He believes there's other avenues that we can pursue, maybe changing the date of the town meeting, cut down on the number of warrant articles, make it more citizen-friendly, the way we've been doing things, instead of having it in June, which is a hard time to do it, just because that's when it is, and there's so much stuff going on. So, the other night, they made a motion, and then what the intent is to have this voted on in the November election. What my issue is with this is we don't know what this means. Okay? If we do away with a town meeting form of government, what's the consequences of that? What changes are going to have to be made? Exactly what are we doing? We've been doing this form of government for 190 years. Is there any possibilities to change things so that more people would come around and participate? Two of the selectmen want this on the November warrant, so we'll have to vote on that. I would assume
Very soon.
very soon. It might even be before our next meeting that we scheduled. But this is the motion that was made. And I wrote this down, Charlie, not to put you on the spot, but I know your experience through municipal government. The motion was made by David Winchell and seconded by Kim. The motion was, I make a motion to put this forward to the town to vote for secret ballot. Kim seconded it, and they voted, and it was 2-1 vote.
That motion really doesn't say anything.
We're doing a secret ballot vote in November anyway.
No, but that's not what the motion said.
But what do you,
What do you think it said?
It doesn't say to change the form of town government and town meeting to secret vote. It just said,
to put the question,
Put the question.
but what question?
right, that's what I mean. It doesn't say anything.
But is it implied, though?
It doesn't matter.
You can't.
You can't go by implied.
Okay.
You can't
No, a
like,
has to be
motion has to be
explicit.
explicit.
you can't,
I have a question. How long ago, since I'm relatively new to the town, how long ago was it that the town moved from, I believe it was March to June for a town
It
meeting?
was 97, 98.
Was there a reason given that you can recall?
You know how part of it, Charlie? You know how part of it?
They gave
You have a lot of snowbirds, right? So you don't have a lot of people, no?
No, the school
The
budget.
reason
load of
was,
crap.
hold on, guys,
Load of crap.
hold on. The reason was,
And go to Florida.
the town was working on a calendar year.
yes, it's a business.
The school was running under a fiscal year. So, obviously, the town books all closed end of December, because that was the end of the year, because we worked on a calendar year. The school's book closed the end of June. The school worked on cash-based accounting. The town worked on accrued accounting. Okay, so the expression on your face, Charlie, was exactly what the auditor and a few of the selectmen and schools said, this just isn't working.
It can't.
Okay, so, but the school historically, long before this, started having their town meeting in June because that's when their fiscal year ended. So then they had the money to start July 1st. So to make everything the same, the town changed their fiscal year to accommodate what the school was doing.
But the town isn't working on an annual calendar year anymore.
Exactly. They're working on a fiscal year. So what they did that year, they did a 1.5-year budget. So that,
Exactly.
so I didn't do that.
Right, I understand.
They did a 1.5-year budget, and it brought everybody into line at the June town meeting. Well, about 12 years ago, the townspeople, when the state got involved with the way you had to present your school budgets, you know, you had to do the, break it down, and then the townspeople voted down the school budget under the secret ballot vote. And believe it or not, then the budget was around a little over $5 million. And the people on the Warrant and Finance Committee said, if you bring the budget down under $5 million, we'll support the budget. Well, they decided that they weren't gonna do that. They're gonna leave it the same and do their campaign. So it got voted down the second time. Now, it's into July. The school doesn't have a passed budget. So they brought it down to a little under $5 million, and the third time it passed. So they get nervous, because what they're saying was, we started the year, we don't have any money. But school law is very clear that if you don't have a budget, you operate on last year's budget. Unlike the municipal government, you vote down the municipal budget, they're done July 1st. So that's when school decided they wanted to move their town meeting back into April, so that if anything like this happened, they would have time
To recover.
to have it. But the town moved to June to be with the school. But when the school moved back, the town didn't move back. And everybody knows in June, you have graduations, you got Father's Day, you got weddings, you got good weather, and it's hard to get participation.
Right.
So, like Tom McGurty said the other night, he thinks that there's avenues that we might be able to check into, whether it's changing the date of the town meeting, bringing it earlier, whatever it is, to bring up participation before we do away with our former government that we've had for 190 years.
It's gonna be almost 300 years. It's 1830.
Yeah.
We had our first town meeting. That's coming up on 300 years.
Is it 300?
1890, 200 years. Yeah, 200 years. It's late.
New math.
So anyway, with all that being said, this is what we're looking at.
You say the selectmen will be voting on that soon?
They did it the other night.
Voted the other night.
They voted.
But I don't know what they voted on.
Voted on something that doesn't say anything?
Right, if they voted on something that doesn't say anything, it's a dead motion.
Right.
Well,
Thank you, Charlie.
Well, they're gonna
I
say,
didn't say anything. I wanted to bring it to
That's
the
a dead
warrant.
motion.
The Warrant and Finance Committee, because this is a warrant.
So then what happens? What happens,
that's what we've been
Charlie?
dealing with. All right, that's why I'm here.
well, the thing is
What are
that
the
we have to be,
consequences of that?
we have to watch how, is that when that comes back, those words have got to be the words that
Exactly.
exactly what the motion said. If they have been corrected or changed,
They have to revote.
it's a revote, it's null and void again. And at that point, I mean, you wouldn't even ask to have the motion,
But all of that should be reported, right?
it's
yes.
recorded.
She's not saying anything.
Yeah, it is.
It is, she has her.
It is, Charlie.
Yeah.
If does anybody have anything else, because I'll drag this out.
I'd just like to say one thing, that when we did have the town meeting in April, there was snow on the ground, and people had the time, it was whatever, and it was more of a community type of thing. The Girl Scouts were here, and 4-H were here, and they had a bake sale, and
Sure.
and they had babysitters.
They had babysitters.
They had,
Yeah.
and it was a community thing. It was something that people wait, whatever. And with this new proposal, it takes away from the whole community type of thing, and it becomes, we become involved
It
basically.
takes away from community, but it allows more people to actually participate.
How are you going to go in there and vote on 70 articles and be out in 5 minutes? That's my question.
Well, there would have to be some sort of process to put those articles out to the public, and then it's my responsibility as a resident to look at those prior to, just like any other election, right? I go and vote for president, it's my due diligence to go and look at
Okay.
what their stance
So the
is.
suggestion is, come to the Warrant and Finance meetings, find out what's on there, so you're not gonna, and then we have public hearings about it. So instead of 3 hours at one day, you're gonna have to go to multiple meetings and...
Well, they don't have to go to meetings if we put that stuff out in public. If we publish it and put it out there on the website, then we don't have to go to a meeting.
But the thing is, if you're gonna compare apples to apples, you can't compare the 500 people that voted at this last election
No.
to somebody that's gonna vote on the budget. Okay? Because it's an election. So if you wanna compare to what is gonna actually happen if you're voting on a budget, let's go to the school. We had a secret ballot vote on that this year.
We had secret ballot vote the first year of COVID, though.
No, this year, we had
This year.
secret ballot on the school.
But I'm talking about for the town meeting.
No, hear me
That was
out.
the first time that the secret for the town meeting was done, was during
Yeah.
COVID.
Correct, and we had a great
But
turnout.
the school decided, or the selectmen agreed, that we wouldn't have an open town meeting on the school budget. So what were the results of that? They had their public hearing, just like they're supposed to, did a great job, great presentation. Not one citizen came to that public hearing. Zero. When they did the school vote, secret ballot, nothing was tied to it, just $5 million in a budget. 90 people showed up. I don't know if all those were yeses, or what the percentage was, but there was only 90 people that voted on 5/8 of a budget. So to think that you're gonna get more participation, secret ballot, there's no data to support
But
that.
was that an 8 to 8 voting day, or was that a?
8 to 8.
8 to 8.
Was it- Okay.
Yeah.
Which is still more than we have at town meetings.
And the other thing,
But it depends what's going on. I mean, and I've seen well over 100 people there. Do they phase out throughout the day? Of course they do, because most people, when whatever they're interested in,
and if you're not in town meeting, you do not have any right to, the only time you can change something is at a town meeting, open floor.
Well, you can't change it, you can vote it up or vote it down.
or you can
No,
amend something.
You can amend.
You can make amends, but you can't change dollar amounts.
No, you can amend.
You can lower the dollar amount, you can't raise them.
You can lower the dollar amount.
Yep.
So that's a change
All
in my
right.
book.
Yep.
You know, you can amend, you can change.
Dennis, real quick, so
You can't
the
do it.
whole justification for wanting to end the town meeting is, what are they saying that is? Their participation?
Participation.
Participation is extremely low in town meeting.
And they
was
think
pathetic.
that
Extremely low and just a
It's-
regular
it's honest.
town.
It is
Pathetic.
pathetic.
90,
But it's not just, and it's a lot of reasons. It's not just because we don't want to go. There's people who can't go because they don't work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and they have to work. There's people who don't have childcare. There's people who want to enjoy the 80-degree weather, you know?
Yeah,
that we get, the
June's-
5 days a year that we get. There's lots of reasons.
But
But if there's an
Margarita-
8 to 8, ballot,
Generational change.
of course,
Yeah.
I don't want to go.
Yeah.
That's personal. I don't want to sit there all day.
But Margarita, voting comes with a with a responsibility.
Of course.
And sometimes you need to give up something in order to exercise that right to vote.
Of course, if
I
we
agree
have
with
to.
Dennis,
But if we can change it and alter it,
June
we can
makes a
vote
lot
8
more
to 8.
sense than eliminating something to a small community that's so important.
Right.
I think it's worth a try to change the date.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I mean, there are things,
Make it easier for
Girl
people
Scouts,
to
Boy
come to the town
Scouts,
meeting.
babysitting services, all of those things can be implemented,
Yeah.
you know, to make it easier for people.
That's what we used to do, like Joe said. We
Yeah,
used to do it
I
every
mean,
year.
those are the things that can make it easier.
It's a possibility. My concern or question is, how big of effect will that have?
Might
We
be
don't know unless we
surprised, we
try
don't
it.
know.
Right.
I think rather than give up everything we've got,
Yeah,
I
Once
think
you
it's
get
worth a
rid of it,
chance.
it's never gonna come
it never
back.
comes back.
Yeah,
I mean-
if you were to give that up, you would lose all transparency in government.
All transparency's gone.
Well, the
And then
whole
maybe you have
feeling
to do
of
a
being in a
real
small
time
town is
manager.
gone. I mean,
Isn't that
I don't
right?
think
That's the next
transparency's
step,
gone,
would be a
because
town
the
manager,
article's
which is
still out
additional
there.
expense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it may be better.
If anything, you get to vote privately and not have the visual pressure of someone looking at you saying,
Does that bother you?
Well, you can always
Really?
make,
it does.
you can always make a motion at a town meeting for a roll call vote on everything.
Yeah, secret ballot.
You can, you know,
sure, I
secret
can do
ballot.
that, but if it gets outvoted, then I'm stuck.
Well, correct. I mean, it's like anything.
Someone knowing I voted no or didn't vote for it, you know what I mean?
No, because it's such a privilege to be able to vote that I don't care if I'm
It
voting
is a
down.
privilege, but it's also a privilege to have a private vote, just like no one
Some
no one
people
has
do
to know
feel, some
who I
people
vote
do
for
feel,
president.
you know, social pressures, and so I understand that.
Yeah,
but-
I understand it too,
But
but
you just get enough people together to where, I mean, there was 34 people that showed up at the last town meeting. You get 20 people together that are all going to say, okay, we're going to do secret ballot on all the warrant items ahead of time, or even at the beginning of the meeting.
Right.
Town clerks can go and print off 1,000 slips of paper and hand it out to those 34 people, and everybody votes secret.
That's
Yeah.
assuming you have 20 other unfriendly people like myself,
But the,
who are willing to talk to each other and say, let's do this.
Margarita, there's another issue with this, is the Warrant and Finance Committee is the perfect example. They're elected on town floor. The road committee is elected on town floor.
Conservation Committee.
conservation,
And so if we change the way you do it, that means you have to take out papers and run for office. It's not gonna happen. And
you have to go get your signatures
history will
and
tell you this.
everything, yeah.
History will show you this, that I'm telling the truth. The planning board, when it first started, was elected. And the reason why it turned to be appointed was because people wouldn't run for the position. When they first started, there was a big gung ho, and then it's like, the selectmen consistently, for the last 3 years, have been trying to fill committees that are appointed. And they can't do it. They can't do it. We're fortunate on this committee until circumstances last year. We had several years with a full committee with no resignations, no nothing. But all these other committees, they're not full.
I believe that right now we're having discussions on differences of opinion. The agenda was for some discussion to be had. I think we're just going over and over, looking at different people's perspectives and views, and that's not gonna change. No one's gonna change their mind
No, no.
one way or
No,
the other.
not to change
So,
minds, but the
You can change mine,
discussion.
right? I always
Discussion
listen
is
to you.
necessary, because we have.
Well, the way that thing's
But I, but I think that the whole situation is to, for the awareness of the,
With the
That was the
selectmen,
whole purpose.
It's the motion that they presented that is going to be voted on,
so I make a motion, we adjourn the
which is
meeting.
I'll second.
Second.
Joe, you really want to stop?
Really?
I want you to stop.
Let's have a motion for that.
I don't know if I can pick you up and put you up there, but I was thinking about it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you for putting up with the invasion.